Under the same moon, we share the love. Embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spreading peace and joy, it's a beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. And now we stand in love's pure mind. Watching the world in love and light.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in and watching the world. We have a lot to cover today. There's so much news around the world. I have good news for you. For those of you who like to engage in the stock market, you know, from the beginning, I've been expressing some stocks that have been gaining quite well. Well, I'm happy to announce that one that I had told you about by the name of the ticker symbol is SOUN. It was around $9. Today is up to $19. Can you imagine that? Also, when it comes to Tesla, I got in around $90. I was telling everybody to buy Tesla, but at the time, the market was quite tough. Right now, Tesla, as of today, is at $443. That's a great gain. When it comes to SoFi is a financial institution, quite similar to Bank of America. They specialize in student loans. They also do personal savings and checking. Well, I had promoted SoFi around $5. And as of today, SoFi is right at $28. So again, we have a great gain. Also, Rocket Lab was around $2 and now it's around $50. So there is a great gain to be had when it comes to the stock market, but we really have to do the research and so forth. Now, I don't really promote it very highly on this channel, but I do mention various stocks from time to time to help people understand that you can make money, but also there's a downside. So it's very important to always do your homework, speak to professionals so that you can enjoy those gains as well. I want to tell you, when it comes to SoFi, what I like about it is that Anthony Noto is the owner or the CEO of the company. He's the one that built up Twitter. And when Anthony Noto went over to SoFi, they gave him a deal that he would receive millions upon millions, but he would have to get the stock up to $45. So that's why I bought so many thousands of shares when it was around $5. Now, my rationale for that is I know the man track record. I feel like he can get the stock to $45. So we're already close to $30. So that's one way of looking at the stock. The beautiful thing about SoFi is that even though they compete with Bank of America, Chase, and all of the big banks, they do not have a lot of brick and mortar stores in every little city and state. So therefore, that money gets recycled into investing for the company. So that's why SoFi, I think, is definitely a good pick. Now, for those of you who might have like $3,000, $4,000 laying around, and I'm just going to express this and then we're going to get into the news, okay? If you have that much laying around, you can engage in the stock market by buying put options and not really have to spend that $3,000 or $4,000. For those who may be interested in that, I'm open to explaining it to you. Just send me an email. There's no charge. But for those who want to have that conversation, I do not promote this on a high level on the channel because there's so many people offering all of these grips and things of that sort. So I don't want to really get too deeply with that, but I will share the knowledge with those who are subscribers and who really support the channel. But it's a great way for you to make consistent money week after week. There's a great strategy and the risk is a lot less because ultimately you'll just have to buy the stock, and you could do so with the underlying 3 or 4,000 you have. But the key is, if you use a company like SoFi and you buy your puts, then you really can't go wrong, because if you look at the record, SoFi has been going up. I've been riding the wave from $5 all the way up now. SoFi is at $28. We went from $2 with Rocket Lab all the way up to $50 a share. So imagine if you're buying 2,000, 3,000 shares at $2. It's a great gain. Okay, so we could talk about that on a personal level. I know some of you have reached out before. Feel free, and we can have that discussion. Now, I have some bitter, disgusting news for you. I regret to inform you that Kada Scott has been confirmed by her DNA to be the person that was found deceased in Philadelphia behind the abandoned, I believe it was a middle school. Now, following the story that happened with her, for those of you who may not know about the case, I would advise you to take a look at it. She had been harassed by a young man, only 21 years old. Why would a guy, a young black fella, 21 years old, he was stalking her for quite some time, and turns out that it appears that he unalived her, right? It's such a heartbreaking story, because they had some incidents going back to April. She got the police involved, but she did not follow through, perhaps out of fear. And about a week ago, she was at work. She went to work. I think her mother said she had a night shift. She worked at like this luxury assisted living. Went to work at 10 o'clock at night or something of that sort. She wasn't there long, and then she disappears from work. Her supervisor says she checked out of work, and her vehicle was left in the parking lot. Lo and behold, they were able to track it down to this guy who had already, I believe, had been bothering her to some effect. But ultimately, they found all of her items at this middle school. And now it turns out that she is the one that they found deceased out in the woods. Now, I don't know the specific details, but they did say someone anonymously called in and said, listen, this is where you may find her. And so I believe 2 days ago, they went out into the woods and they found her in a shallow, I think it was like 4 feet or 2 feet just down in the dirt. What a sad thing when you see this happening at a high level throughout the United States and throughout the world. We're not sure why there's so much violence, and a lot of these things are happening to young females, young girls, and it's happening by young males. Like, what's really going on? Where are they getting this anger, and where are they getting this hate from? As you know, I covered the Sean Diddy Combs case, right? I went to the case every day. I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I commuted an hour and a half to the city. I sat in the main courtroom. And to hear about domestic violence being aimed at a lot of women. Now, when you're growing up as a man, you might not see the seriousness of how you treat women or how you view women. Or sometimes maybe sons do not have a great relationship with their mother, so there's some animosity there. But as you get older and you have a daughter, then you realize, listen, this is serious matters. We need to be able to instill these ideas and concepts in young men earlier in life so that they're not out here doing all of these terrible things to young women. There is no reason to ever, and I always promote it, you should never put your hand on a woman and children. In fact, it's not advantageous to go around wanting to put your hands on anyone, but that's a whole different subject. Okay, so we have quite a few people here. Yes, Curious, rest in peace to her. It's so sad. I was hoping that this would turn out to be favorable for her. Lorenzo, hello, how are you? All right, Candyman is back from last night. This must be about the beauty queens. Yeah, she was a beauty queen. She was in a competition, and this is what happened to her. So anyway, as you guys know, I expressed to you last night that I covered the No Kings event. Well, Donald Trump has responded to that event. We're going to take a look at it, folks. Bear with me here. I'm going to show you what Donald Trump had to say in regards to the matter. Jake Tapper has actually covered this quite well. Let's see how Donald Trump responded to the No Kings event.
Navy jet and drop Trump, over the weekend, posted an AI-generated video of him getting in a Navy jet and dropping presumably tons of sewage.
Now, Donald Trump says that he is not a king, right? But it's interesting that he has a crown on in this video that he shares.
On hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of his fellow Americans protest.
Now, I actually went to this event. You can see this is here in New York City. This is probably an AI generated video, but I will tell you, I was able to stand on a high rock and kind of catch the video. For those of you who follow the channel, you probably saw it, but this is a great depiction because the streets were really flooded. And believe you me, I stood there for 3.5 hours and the street was continuously flooded with people.
His presidency during the weekend's No Kings rally. I always find it curious when politicians, especially presidential candidates or presidents, seem to express disdain for millions of their fellow Americans. Hillary Clinton got attacked in 2016 for saying that half of Trump's supporters fit in a basket of deplorables. Joe Biden, the incumbent president at the time, got hot water for saying the only garbage he saw was Trump supporters, after a comedian at the Trump rally referred.
You're right. AI Med Spa New York is a sanctuary city as a whole. And thank you to Debbie. Debbie says they're paid protesters. Joel Winder says trolling the libtards. All right. Thank you. Candyman says at least Trump's jokes are funny. Maybe liberals need to come up with humorous jokes. Okay. Curious says he's just vile. Speaking about Donald Trump.
To Puerto Rico as a floating isle of garbage. But here we have attacking or trolling, as the White House sees it, millions of Americans as a strategy, not as a gaffe, as with.
All right, so he said Donald Trump was trolling, right? All of the people protesting. Do you feel that way when he dropped the crap on him? He dropped it. I don't want to say the word, the common vernacular that most people use, right? But this is Donald Trump's response to the matter.
With Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, but as a strategy. Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, described Democrats this way.
The Democrat Party's main constituency are made up of Hamas terrorists, illegal aliens, and violent criminals.
And over the weekend, we also saw Republican luminaries such as Vice President J.D. Vance and others go on Blue Sky, which is a...
What do you guys think? You think Donald Trump makes a good king if he wanted to be one? What do you think?
A progressive, liberal Twitter social media experiment and purposely poke the bears there, posting.
So you have Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer bowing down to the king, Donald Trump, all the glory, right?
AI videos of President Trump putting on a crown and Democratic leaders bowing before him. So maybe to some people, it's just trolling and have some fun and lighten up. And to others, it might be more insulting. But one thing it clearly is, empirically, is the President of the United States and the White House dividing the country, and whether it's joking or not, attacking millions of.
So what do you guys think? Do you think the president is dividing the country, as he said? Let's get to some of the comments, guys. I'm going to try to get as many as I can. A lot of people are participating. I appreciate it. Please hit the like button. It really helps out a lot to get more eyes on the videos. Thank you so much. And also the other videos we put out, please go seek them out and hit a like if you really like the channel. I would really appreciate it. It keeps us in the algorithm. Okay. All right. So many comments. Let's see here. Okay. The Abbey of the Everyone says paid protesters. No, Debbie, wake up, brainwash. Okay. All right. Stanley says those are protesters that hate America, but yet you act like they're citizens who love this country. They are not. Okay. Oberta Hunt says MAGA swallows. What are they swallowing? Tell us, tell us, tell us. The Abbey of Everyone says it's not a troll, it's a threat. Okay. So the Abbey of Everyone think this is more serious than meets the eye. Candyman says, remember when the French farmers spread manure all over liberal government? Okay. All right. Thank you for your comments. Keep them coming. Hope and Peace says he is the most vile, disgusting liar your country ever had to endure. Hope, it sounds like you're from someplace else. Tell us where you're from. We want to know. Curious One says total disaster and embarrassment. He's clearly triggered, not trolling. All right. Thank you. C Whiskey says, ha, ha, ha. Only Dems left are Fergits. Oh my. Debbie says, first time seeing this. Tell me about it. I saw it this morning too. I had to laugh at it. I was out there. It would have been a disaster if poop had fell from the sky, folks. Let's talk about it. The Abbey of Everyone says absolutely deranged. Okay, are you talking about Donald Trump? GP2 says yes. The Abbey of Everyone says, I guess we're violent criminals for not being a sheep. Okay, talk about it. AI Medspa says kings get their way. AI Medspa has been supporting the channel like crazy. I really appreciate it. Thank you for keep coming back and also not only being here, but commenting away. Candyman says, Abby, MAGA controls the whole country. We don't need to make threats. It's not hard to shut off 10 cities. Oh, my.
Of their fellow Americans for having views different from theirs. Remember, this is not an AI video of Trump dropping sewage on violent Antifa riots or undocumented criminal gang members. It's dropping sewage on people peacefully exercising the right of protest and assembly.
President Donald.
Now, I can confirm that the people were peaceful. I counted about 7 individuals that were actually pushing a walker. They seemed to be very up in age, but they wanted to get out there and express themselves. I only counted maybe, at least during the actual event, I only counted maybe 5 Antifa, whereas the previous protest toward the end of the night, there was Antifa everywhere. But for the most part, this was definitely a peaceful protest. But we're going to see what Donald Trump has to say about it. Let's get right to it and see his comments.
I think it's a joke. I looked at the people. They're not representative of this country.
Response to the protests over the weekend, the Joe King's protests.
I think it's a joke. I looked at the people. They're not representative of this country. And I looked at all the brand new signs paid for. I guess it was paid for by Soros and other radical left lunatics. It looks like it was. We're checking it out. The demonstrations were very small, very ineffective, and the people were whacked out. When you look at those people, those.
Now, you said it was very small. There were some 7 million people when you factor in the entire United States. In Manhattan, where I was in New York, it was over 100,000 people that showed up. At least that's what's being reported. And I can tell you by the looks of some of the signs, though, a lot of them were made by hand. I don't think it was, I think a lot of it could have been paid for by a bigger machine. But I think for the most part, it was people coming out to express themselves. Let's get back to it.
Those are not representative of the people of our country.
Mr. President, besides San Francisco.
By the way, I'm not a king. I'm not a king. I work my ass off to make our country great. That's all it is. I'm not a king at all.
Okay, so you heard it from the President of the United States. He is not a king, folks. No matter what people say, he's not a king. Okay, very good. So let's get back to it. Okay, so I don't know how many of you actually know
from Google
about
to DuckDuckGo on all your devices. DuckDuckGo.
I don't know how many of you are aware that when Donald Trump came into office, he had a Bitcoin, right? He had, well, not a Bitcoin, he had a cryptocurrency. And so now it's coming out that everyone feels pretty much, or a lot of people, especially the left, obviously feel like it's some sort of scam, some sort of crypto scam. We're going to get to that. But before I do that, I'm going to get to a few of the comments here. So just hang along with me. Let's see here. The Abbey of Everyone says, Trump, prison now. He wants Trump to go to prison. Frank says, will there even be a Democracy Party next year, Democratic Party next year? Okay. I saw a lot of signs saying that the Democratic Party is becoming extinct. I saw those signs. The Abbey of Everyone says, Frank, you are brainwashed. Wake up. Okay. Debbie P says, these are gifts. Okay. Why are you blaming Trump? Okay. I don't think anybody's blaming Trump. At least I'm not. Okay, Gold Diggers in the house holding it down. Thank you so much for coming in. She says, welcome in. First things first, double tap the screen to like, subscribe, and become a part of Watching the World family, where truth meets justice. Thank you so much. I'm not your pal. Friend says, kings get dealt with when they overreach. Okay, CRXR is back. Thank you so much. Says, if you can't take a joke, I'm not going to take you seriously. Okay, good point. Deborah Owen says, hi there. Hi to you, Deborah. Thanks for being here. Please wait says, hi. Hello to you. Curious One says, there's but one king, and it surely isn't a felon in the White House. Okay, tell us who that one king is. Jack says, lefty fools with TDS. Okay, talking about those perhaps in the crowd. Okay, Ian Crawford says, now bow down to your king. Okay, Frank says, Democrats haven't been this mad since they lost their slaves. Okay, the comments are moving so fast. Margaret says, President Trump can be my king forever. Okay, we have a Trump supporter. Okay, so when it gets down to Donald Trump's cryptocurrency and also his family, they say his family has brought in billions. Let's take a look at it and see what's going on.
Turning to another huge scandal hitting the White House, the president is reaping dividends from crypto unlike anything we've ever seen. He's likely now pocketed more money from this side job while serving as president than from his many other businesses. The Fox News sister outlet, the Wall Street Journal, reporting the Trump family has pocketed about $5 billion. That's $5 billion.
All right, so Donald Trump is taking in along with his family because, you know, Melania also has a Trump coin. I think throughout many of them do, but they brought in tons of money.
Dollars through the launch of a virtual cryptocurrency, most of that occurring this year while Trump is president. It is likely the family's most valuable asset, exceeding their real estate. The entire project raises questions about conflicts of interest and secret lanes to influence a sitting president. It opens up a gusher of foreign money. And remarkably, it shows how Trump's business and personal standing is benefited by his political job. That is, of course, the exact opposite of his many claims that because he was rich, he'd be above and apart from the usual pressures on politicians. In fact, he is now doing more side work and side business and having more conflicts than any president in history. Trump exploiting his elected power also to change policy in ways that benefit him and his family.
We've been pushing the market of crypto and Bitcoin and all of it, everything. Make America the crypto capital of the world. I launched it. I heard it was very successful.
Okay, as you listen to this, notice Donald Trump has made more money from crypto than they have from real estate. That's what he just expressed.
I haven't checked it. Where is it today?
You made a lot of money, sir.
How much?
Several $billion, it seems like, in the last several days.
Okay, so Donald Trump made billions of dollars in several days. Wow.
Several billion? That's peanuts for these guys.
This conflict of interest, the unseemly nature of it, and how much this money can dwarf or distort the president's actual day job was also called out on Fox Business.
My goodness me. $5 billion?
Eye-popping numbers. He is the crypto president, the first one ever.
He's a crypto president, folks.
A lot of crypto-friendly legislation, regulation.
What it amounts to is it's crypto-friendly legislation coming from the president of the United States, who is in turn cashing in on the crypto phase. Personally, his family.
Conflict of interest.
Okay, you guys think it's a conflict of interest? Tell us what you think. Do you think so? All right, let's see. Margaret says, President Trump can be my king forever. Okay, Designer Traveler says, Trump will go down as the biggest con man in American history. Okay. Vera Johnson says, no, and we, the U.S., don't want one either. Absolutely only one king. Okay, Design Traveler says, Orange Lives Matter. Saw a lot of signs about that, too. The Abbey of Everyone says, they are citizens. What are you talking about? It's our right as Americans to protest. Most of these protesters are citizens. Okay, thank you. Design Traveler says, Trump has masterfully brainwashed his followers into believing immigrants are the reason for all of their problems. Okay, thank you so much. GMAT1 says, Baha Ha POTUS is winning. Okay, a Trump supporter. Okay, Debbie P says, Generation Xers here. Best president of my lifetime. Okay, so definitely a lot of Trump supporters. Deborah says she's really scared. Okay, Gary Sieber, got your loser New York cap on. How about the Jet losers? Yes, indeed. We're going to come back, though. We're going to pull this off. Okay. Lizette says he is the most vile, narcissistic con man, always was and always will be. Okay, so we have people here who support Trump, and we have people that don't.
Conflict of interest. We're joined by Justin Wolfers, economics professor from the University of Michigan and host of Think Like an Economist podcast. Justin, how is this good for the taxpayer and the general public?
Here's a secret, Ari. It's not. Look, so there's all the usual problems. We don't like folks getting rich while they have a day job doing something else, right? And there's an ethical problem of corruption. There's a far deeper problem, which is now the majority of the president's wealth comes from one industry, crypto. By the way, it's not just the $5 billion the Wall Street Journal reported on today. He also has a crypto coin, the Trump coin, not to be overshadowed by the Melania coin, which are also worth enormous amounts of money. So one, it leads him to put a thumb on the scale for this particular industry. That's very important because this is an industry which is trying to manufacture suckers, trying to, things might go south. And so they're trying to sell this now to working and middle class Americans as an investment where it's no such thing. But more importantly, if or when everything goes south, we all just wake up and discover that this was a bubble. You would think normally you would just let investors who took such outrageous...
Did any of you guys in the audience buy the Trump coin, the crypto coin? Tell us, or perhaps even the Melania coin.
Outrageous gambles take the loss. But the oldest trick in the playbook is you privatize the gains and socialize the losses. And this gives Trump $5 billion to want to socialize the losses, to try to put together a bailout for something that affects very, very few American families and would be a pure grifter bailout.
Do you guys remember when Letitia James brought those charges against Donald Trump and ultimately he was fined? He had to come up with $480 million. He had trouble coming up with the money. Well, since he's become president, they're saying he's made, $5 billion? I don't think he would have much problems paying that amount if he had to.
Now, we're not there yet, but people already start investing in crypto based on the understanding that there's going to be a Trump put, that he's going to do whatever he can to keep this grift going.
Well, it's an important alarm you raise, and people were angry enough at the failures and the perceived greed in the stock market bubble, the financial housing bubble, the mortgage-backed derivatives.
All right, let's see if anyone purchased any of the Trump coins. Let's see. Okay, Brenda says, everyone go to work, quit crying. Okay, do we have a lot of people crying in the comments section? Daniel says, MSNBC propaganda pushing liars. Okay, he says it's all lies. Patrick says, yes, when it was $6. Okay, so you probably made quite a good penny if you bought it at $6. Okay, Tammy says, my dad with dementia bought the coin. Oh, my. Okay, Sylvia says he needs to be charged again because he has broken the government. He's broken. A lot of people feel like he's winning and the American people are winning. So we have both sides of the aisle here. It's beautiful. Patrick says crypto is the future. Okay, thank you very much for that expression. Get in now and you will make money. Yes, indeed. All right, Curious One says not interested in investing with anything from a felon, 34-count felon to be exact. Now, guys, I actually attended Donald Trump's trial in New York City. He actually walked past me many days throughout the trial. I can tell you it was a very complicated trial, but I enjoyed going to it, actually hearing different things that happened. But I can say that most of the day, the president appeared to be sleeping or disinterested in what was happening. Ultimately, he lost with 34 felonies, but he won because he became the president of the United States. How about that?
A lot of things. and there were bailouts. You're telling people this would be worse than that if Donald Trump stands to bail himself out and views this personally as just what's good for him, not the country. And then we know where he stands on his view of crypto. I mean, the guy has been more interested in money and the economic system than any other topic over the course of his life, except save probably, maybe his own PR. And so he was early discussing crypto when other people weren't. And he had a very clear view of it as a scam. Take a look.
Bitcoin, it just seems like a scam. I don't like it because it's another currency competing against the dollar. Potentially a disaster waiting to happen. They may be fake. Who knows what they are? I'm a big fan of the dollar. I'm a big fan of our currency, and I don't want to have other currencies coming out and hurting or demeaning the dollar.
I think it's a very dangerous thing.
Justin?
Okay, so the president has changed his position on crypto, obviously. It's made him $5 billion, to say the least. Okay. All right. The Abbey of Everyone says that's horse shit, Mike. Okay. Martin. Okay. The comments are moving so fast. Martin says Trump cannot be held responsible due to the presidential pardon power. Okay. Curious One says he's a felon, overturned or not. Okay. That's the truth. AI Max says they tried to say Mar-a-Lago was worth $20 million. Trump Tower only worth $80 million. The whole case was ridiculous. Okay. Well, they turned the table on Letitia James, as we know what's happening with her right now. They've indicted her. Let's see what's going to happen. The Abbey of Everyone says Trump prison yesterday. He wants Trump out of here. Okay. Living for Him says, I like how you all ignore the scams and the insider trading that all the Dems have been doing for years and years and years. You only care when it's right or your TDS hits hard. Okay, thank you very much for that. Paul says, Trumpy is right. Okay, very good. Patrick says, don't worry about things that you can't control. Okay, Martin says, Trump coins are a scam. People are losing their money. Okay, I did read some articles when this first occurred that people actually purchased the Trump coin and they used their lines of credit to do so. Right? They used their margin, and then when the coin dropped, it tanked, they were left holding the bag, and they had a very limited time to come up with the fund. So something to think about. AI MedSpa says Trump owns 8,000 Bitcoin. Wow. Must be loaded. Okay, so a lot of different expressions. We'll take Eric, and then we'll get back to the video. Eric says they think he won because he became the president of the United States, which tells you how dumb and ignorant Trump supporters are. All right.
The man clearly has extraordinary economic instincts. Look, we do think he understands what a scam is, and I think he saw straight through this one. Thinking about how his brain works is important here. Remember, several decades ago, Spy magazine sent out checks for 13 cents to an array of celebrities, and one of the very few who took that 13-cent check out of the mail and went into the bank to get paid their 13 cents was Donald Trump.
Wow.
If he'll take half an hour out of his day for 13 cents, imagine what he's going to do for $5 billion. Look, there are very real questions about whether there's any there with crypto. I'm a cynic, but I also know there are very smart people who disagree with me. I could be wrong. The question here is, though, with we the people should be bailing out these folks if their bets go wrong. The other question is, should these folks be allowed to effectively be buying out the president? One of his investments here, he has a stable coin.
Yeah, they're trying to say that the Egyptian president somehow greased the president of the United States with 10 million. These stories go on and on, but that's the new pressing thing in the media right now. Very similar to what he's saying. They're trying to prime the pump by giving the president money.
It sounds complicated, but basically it's a whole lot of zeros and ones where they promise it'll always be worth $1. It's almost as good as $1. That stable coin is currently being supported by Binance. Binance is a major crypto firm whose CEO just happens to be in jail right now, hoping for a pardon. Put these pieces together and you can get a sense of what, of why Binance is trying so hard to help the president.
Yeah, I mean, these are huge.
Okay, very good. So we get a chance to hear what's happening in regards to Donald Trump's crypto life. Now we're going to switch gears. We're going to take a look and see how this peace deal came about. I'm very fascinated with the peace deal between Israel and Gaza. I was shocked to hear that they went back into this whole shooting the other night, but we'll see what happens. As of right now, I guess everything is stable. But do you guys think ultimately this peace deal will hold up? Okay, well, let's get into it. We have the two masterminds behind the deal that are going to break it down and tell you how it came to be. And they're also going to reveal a few secrets about this big deal. Now, keep in mind, folks, for those of you that are Bible thumpers, you know for certainty that Israel, if the modern day Israel is the same Israel from the Bible, which that's debatable, but that's what we're going to claim, right? Israel has been fighting wars for over 3,000 years, and Donald Trump somehow has brought about peace. In fact, the Bible says that the Israelites would have the land from the rivers to the sea, right? How can that be with Gaza sitting right in the midst of that? So is Donald Trump stronger than the Bible? Let's see.
Last night, that includes shaking off tense moments and moving ahead to phase 2 of the historic Middle East peace agreement. Two of the key figures now brokering that deal, revealing brand new details about how it all came together and what is needed in the future to make sure that it sticks.
Hamas right now is doing exactly what you would expect a terrorist organization to do, which is to try to reconstitute and take back their positions.
Right.
The success or failure of this will be if Israel and this international mechanism is able to create a viable alternative. If they are successful, Hamas will fail and Gaza will not be a threat to Israel in the future.
So that was from 60 Minutes Sunday night. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Very intriguing details with Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff. And now Trey Yinks joins us live in Tel Aviv with the follow-on today. Trey, hello.
Hey, Bill, good morning. Over the weekend, Hamas...
Now, before we get to him, I want to go through a few of the comments, okay? Patrick says, quit being pessimistic. Okay, Jim Peacock, welcome back, says, no Kings Day worked. There are currently no kings in the United States. That's a good one. That's the best one so far today. Rebecca Hamilton says, they are not the true Israelites. Okay, thank you. That's the feeling of many people, that they are not the original true Israelites. That's a strong discussion, strong debate, and it would be a great discussion to have someday. But it's a subject matter that you really can't touch on the social media platforms, because they're really cutting back and filtering everything that's being said. They even have AI doing it, and you can get shadow banned for certain things, especially talking about Israel. Okay, the Abbey of everyone, and he will be if he has his way. Okay, Justin Christ says the Democrats, well, we know he's definitely not a Democrat, are so sad that they can't win in life, in the election, and even a damn debate. Y'all need helmets. Oh my. He's insinuating that they're slow. Okay, Beck says you guys are an authoritarian regime. You can't have realized it yet. Okay, the comments are moving so fast. I have to slow it down. Okay, Patrick says, okay, the comments are moving. I like what you're doing on this channel. Thank you, guys. I'm going to have to slow down the chat so the comments on my end, they move so fast. Okay, very good. Let's go.
Violated the ceasefire agreement, killing 2 Israeli soldiers. The IDF said Hamas militants popped out of a tunnel before firing RPGs at an excavator operating near the city of Rafah. In another incident nearby, Israeli soldiers were wounded by Hamas sniper fire.
Now, guys, for some context, this happened Saturday night, our time here in the United States.
The event prompted Israeli strikes across the Gaza Strip that killed dozens of Palestinians.
Yesterday, the situation was scary. We were afraid that the war would start again with the strikes and bombing. The situation is not stable. We were relieved when the war had ended and stopped, God willing. There is still fear. There is still fear.
Israeli officials say they are resuming the American-led ceasefire, and Hamas leadership said they're committed to the agreement. For now, things appear to be back on track ahead of what Israeli media says will be Vice President.
So tell us what you think. Do you think that this will be an everlasting peace deal or just a short fix? What do you think?
President J.D. Vance's visit to Israel tomorrow.
Donald Trump used the word eternal. He used the word eternal. So what do you think?
Our allies don't have the security infrastructure in place yet to confirm that Hamas is disarmed. Until you actually go a little bit down the path of this peace mission, of this 20-point peace plan, we're not going to be able to say with confidence that everybody is doing everything that we want them to do.
President Trump's.
So they had a 20-point peace plan, right? That's what's in motion. They had shots fired before number 2 was brought to reality.
Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff and his son-in-law Jared Kushner arrived in Israel today to meet with their Israeli counterparts and keep the ceasefire moving forward. As part of phase 1 in the agreement, Hamas still must release the bodies of 16 hostages that remain inside Gaza. Regional negotiators are already starting to work on the implementation of phase 2 in this deal that ultimately should lead to Hamas disarming.
Now, they have 16 bodies that are still located, right, with Hamas. But the real question is, how do they really know that these individuals are actually dead, right? I think that's a viable question, unless we can find where they have some significant way of trusting, because other than that, they're just trusting Hamas' words, right?
We want to make sure that it's going to be very peaceful with Hamas. And as you know, they've been quite rambunctious. They've been doing some shooting, and we think maybe the leadership isn't involved in that, some rebels within, but either way, it's going to be handled properly. It's going to be handled toughly, but properly.
Ceasefires are never straightforward, but the Trump administration peace plan built in fail-safes to keep stability in Gaza. Bill?
Got it. Trey, thanks. Leading our coverage as we begin a new week. Trey Yinks in Tel Aviv. Thanks.
Let's bring in our special colleague, a special report anchor, Brett Baer. You are here. One of the things that was so unique about this particular negotiation is that Witkoff and Kushner actually meet with Hamas leaders. And this is
okay. Mook Rule says until they get rid of Bibi, it won't stop. A lot of people feel that way. Braladen says, what terrorism has Trump done? Enforce the law. Okay. Deborah Owen says, I'm with you, Eric. Okay. Gold Digger still holding us down. Thank you so much, Gold Digger. I really appreciate what you're doing. It's amazing.
something that they talked about last night in terms of seeing them and connecting with them to get a conversation going.
We expressed our condolences to him for the loss of his son. He mentioned it. And I told him that I had lost a son and that we were both members of a really bad club, parents who have buried children.
When Steve and him spoke about their sons, it turned from a negotiation with a terrorist group to seeing two human beings kind of showing a vulnerability with each other.
So here we are today. I mean, it is a little bit of a tenuous situation. Hamas trying to figure out a way to keep alive. Can they do that?
Yeah, listen, I thought the 60 Minutes piece was really fascinating. I thought they did a nice job. And both Witkoff and Kushner were open about that negotiation. And obviously, Witkoff is talking about losing his son to opioid abuse. And the other son was taken out by Israeli strikes inside Doha, Qatar. So the loss of those sons connected them. And I thought the part where they say they finally make the deal and the Israelis and the Qataris hug was kind of a really interesting moment, right? There's a lot that we don't know about the future of this and how that Arab force is going to patrol Gaza and what that security.
All right, let's get to a few of the comments here. Look like they connected because they both lost their sons. Brad Simpson said Republicans are being hoodwink right now. Okay, Eric says, thank you, Deborah Owens. Okay, thank you very much. All right. They're calling Donald Trump a narcissist. Okay, we have Bordeaux in the building. And the Abbey of everyone says Trump is a narcissist. Okay. Patrick says Trump is a puppet under the threat of death through whoever his are a terrible way for us. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your comments. Keep them coming. Guys, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe. We do this every day at noon. We also have different shows. I have some great shows coming your way throughout the future as well.
Security environment and envelope is going to look like. And I think the positive side is that the IDF chose to act and then get back out and recall a ceasefire, saying, we're still in the game. This is still holding. I think that's important.
I think that comment you made about them talking about the hug, and they said, we wish a camera was there. We wish the world could have seen this. That could have been a special moment.
It could have. And I think that that's what people don't get, is that there's this hunger in that region for a deal. We've always been just one step away from it.
It's hard to believe that this is what actually happened. I'm just saying, because the way Hamas is always painted, at least in the media and through the lens of Israel, you think that these guys just do not want to talk. They just want to shoot and just hardcore. So I thought this was a very intriguing moment to share.
For one reason or another, and both sides pull off to their corners. But there is this just tired feeling that they're done with it. And there is buy-in to try to get to something. This is the something right now.
And Kushner apparently from the very beginning, even in the first term, said, if you can figure out a way to get shared economic interests going, you might be able to figure out a way to get to a deal, because the Arab countries want to move forward, Israel wants to move forward, and so they had that playing in their favor. The other thing is interesting to me. They are in a situation where Palestinians are being attacked by Hamas. So who else could protect them? There's nobody else in place right now.
No, there's not. And other than the IDF going back in to try to stop some of that killing, I think there was some bloodletting from Hamas going after groups.
Now, do you guys believe the narrative that's coming out of Israel, and that basically Hamas is causing more trouble for the Gazans than actually anyone else? What do you think? Tell us what you think. Dennis says, why is this man wearing a hat? Is he watching baseball? Okay, he's more interested in my hat. Thank you very much. All right, Design says, Trump, like all narcissists, are insecure like kids stuck in 8-year-olds who throw a tantrum when they don't get their way or get criticized. Okay, the Abbey for Everyone says Israel is lying as per usual. Okay, Design says Trump is the poster boy for pathological liars everywhere. And the Abbey of Every Man says it's a nice hat. Okay, we have a positive person in the audience. I didn't even have to say anything. Life is great. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate your positivity.
That wanted Hamas out of there from the beginning. And really, it's this Arab force. So far, the Pakistanis, the Indonesians, the Azerbaijanis have agreed, but you're going to have a bigger, broader force with the Qataris and the Emiratis.
Okay. All right. So we'll have to see what happens. We're going to keep moving, guys. We're going to move on to the next story. Did you guys hear about now what happened here in Chicago? Well, I'm not in Chicago, but what happened in Chicago? There was a shooting. Now, keep in mind that the mayor for Chicago said did not want the National Guard there. But just think about what's happening in Chicago when it comes to crime. Let's check it out.
Yeah, Samantha and Val, within the past few minutes, we just got new information about this shooting. We can confirm, according to Chicago police, that 4 people were shot, 3 men and 1 woman. We're told by police that they were on a sidewalk when they were hit in a drive-by.
This happened over the weekend, guys. Check it out.
All were taken to a nearby hospital and are expected to be okay. Those victims range in age from 22 to 60 years old. But you're taking a look at video right now from earlier this morning showing that massive police presence. They've been on scene now for hours investigating the circumstances of the shooting at the intersection of Division and Dearborn in the city's Gold Coast neighborhood. We know that 1 block east towards State Street.
Okay, so the Abbey for Every Man is actually in Chicago. And says, we don't want National Guard here. Okay, so we have boots on the ground in Chicago. Tell us what's happening there. Do you think crime has gotten any better, or do you think it's rapidly going downhill? Design Traveler says, Orange Lives Matter. Okay, all right. Thank you so much for that. Nick says, sure, you don't then. Why is everybody all over the internet saying that? Okay. Nick Hutchins is saying you're a liar to someone, not sure who.
Is also taped off right now as officers continue to investigate. You can see dozens of shell casings and evidence markers on the ground there as part of this.
Brad Simpson says Trump is doing so well in this country, afraid of the future. Okay.
Investigation. We did speak with one man a little bit earlier this morning who said that he'd heard dozens of gunshots.
30 gunshots woke me up a couple hours ago, and I didn't come out.
Wow, can you imagine that? 30 gunshots? Like, where are they living, in a war zone? That's insane.
Out until I got a sense that it was all over. It's frequent. We hear gunfire in this neighborhood frequently, mostly people leaving bars, fighting with each other.
A week ago, we covered a shooting in Mississippi that happened pretty similar to this, right in the middle of town. 12 people were shot. They call it a mass shooting. So this is happening all over.
We're back here live in the city's Gold Coast neighborhood. Again, police still on scene. They've been on scene for hours this morning investigating this shooting. Of course, Samantha and Val, with police being here, we can safely assume that they are still working on gathering more information at this hour. So once we learn new details.
All right. So Axel said, I was just there. Okay. Ross says, I'm in Oakland. That ain't nothing. And we don't need military here. Okay. The Abbey for everyone who's in Chicago says that is insane. We need gun control. Should not be so easy to get a firearm. Ross says it's a police matter. Okay. Gabriel says, how convenient that this goes down right now. Just saying. Okay. He's saying it's a timing issue. Okay, Trevor Soul says the South is more dangerous than Illinois. You're more likely to be a victim of a violent crime in the South. No guard deployed there, though. Okay, they said they're only deploying guards in blue states. Could someone fact check that? What do you guys think? Is that just a myth? Deborah Owens, I love it when Deborah keeps commenting. She says exactly a police matter. Okay, Carl Scott says 3 deaths is defined as a mass shooting. Okay, thank you for that insight call. We appreciate you. Tony says it's a police matter and the ICE guys are only making it worse. Okay. Yeah, a lot of people are very upset with the ICE. I covered last night on the show that Don Lemon has taken on a lot of heat because Don Lemon says basically your rights as an American, especially in certain states, you can stand your ground. So if someone is banging on your door, trying to come in your house, you have a right to stand your ground. Well, a lot of people from MAGA are pushing back on Don Lemon saying, hey, you're promoting violence to ICE. What do you guys think? Are you on the MAGA side or are you on the blue side? Where are you at exactly? Okay, tell us all about it. Mike Webb says, how come nobody bitched about ICE when Obama started it? Obama was, to date, probably deported more people than just about anyone, whether you like it or not. Tony Anthony says, where Kirk was killed at. Okay, so that's where you're located, Tony. Tell us about it. I'm going to drop the link if someone would like to come up. It seems that we have people here with boots on the ground and in very interesting places. I'll put it in there just in case. But if you come up, please be respectful. We had someone come up and they were nude and they showed porn. Please, folks, we don't want that. But if you want to come up and express yourself, I just put the link in the chat. I would love to briefly hear from you to have a good exchange, okay? And again, thank you to all the moderators who are doing a great job. We have a lot of people here, a lot of comments. I know it's hard. We have people here from both sides of the aisle, so it's nice to see that for the most part, everyone's being respectful.
About what happened here, we'll be sure to let you know.
Okay, very good. So that's that shooting that happened. Now I'm going to cover the case that really broke my heart when it came to Kada Scott. This happened in Philadelphia. The young guy, 21, took her life. They just confirmed today that through DNA that it's actually her. They discovered in a shallow grave behind the abandoned middle school, I believe.
We begin with breaking news in Philadelphia, where law enforcement sources tell Fox 29 a DNA test confirms the body found Saturday morning in East Germantown belongs to 23-year-old Kada Scott. This is the 10 o'clock news. I'm Jennifer Lee. Kada was last seen on October 4th after arriving for an overnight shift at a senior living facility. Let's go out to Kelly Rule live at police headquarters tonight with the details on this devastating update. And Kelly, what are your sources telling you?
Okay, before we move on, it seems that everyone's still talking about this whole ICE situation, so I just want to hit a few of those points. Third says, regardless where ICE goes, they are federal. Good point. Mike Webb says, I'm not on a side, I'm in the between. Okay, that's good. That's a good place to be. I think ultimately, when you look at the facts, people have feelings or viewpoints from both sides of the aisle. They won't admit to it. I don't think anyone is hardcore totally red or hardcore totally blue. I think people are humans, and based on your experience, affects how you see things, and that affects how you behave, right? Tony says, that's horrible. Yes, indeed. Trevor says, what would you do if masked, unidentified thugs broke into your home? That's the point that Don Lemon was making. You don't know who's coming through your door. So, it could be a true burglar. You're just going to lay there and think it's ICE and get, we don't want to say what could happen, right? But that's Don Lemon's point, whether you like it or not. But he's taking on so much heat. They wanted him to perhaps get a felony, be locked up because of that expression, inciting against ICE. So you could check that out if you want to look into it further. Okay, Serge says, fools don't understand ICE is federal government. Go ahead and give people bad advice. Stand your ground. That's a good point. Thank you, Serge, for actually breaking that down a bit. But again, that point still lingers. Like, what are you to do? Somebody's banging on your door. They're not identifying themselves. Like, what are you supposed to do? I mean, we're all humans. You go to your bed at night, right? You have sleep. You hear the banging on your door. You don't know who it is, right?
Well, Jennifer, law enforcement sources tell me tonight that anonymous tip that led to Saturday's search was someone telling police to please go back to the former Ada.
I mean, at least when the police show up, there's flashing lights. Typically, you kind of get into the mood to identify yourself. But ICE does not roll up that way. I do not believe so, at least from what I've seen. All right, Tony's breaking down Don Lemon. He says Don Lemon is actually correct. You have the right to defend yourself with people that you can't identify. Okay. All right. So there you have it. Tony has made a solid point. Brad says vote, vote, vote. I think during the midterm elections, you're going to see a lot of voting. And I'm going to tell you from my experience, I've covered each of these No Kings protests. Each one is getting bigger. Very few Black people there. I will tell you that. I'm giving you some inside information. But even that percentage is growing. But I will tell you, Antifa is also there. And the other time, that was my first occurrence back in June with Antifa, right? And I'm out here by myself, so I don't want to tick anybody off. But I will say they had their faces covered. You could go back to my video in June. I covered it live. People actually got stabbed in front of me. It's all recorded, unfortunately. But there were many disputes that broke out, but we covered things. I think I got a pass because everybody saw I had my media badge, I had my cameras and so forth. But I'm just telling you, giving you some insight. It was 10:30 at night. And, next time I'll go more prepared. But that was my first experience with Antifa. And they're very well organized, and it's real, folks. That's all I can tell you. I won't speak beyond that. Okay, and I'm out here in the New York streets, okay? All right, Margaret says, ICE know exactly where they're going and why. They have been aware of who they are and are after. Okay, Ross says, I cover my face there too, and I ain't no terrorist. Okay, yeah, we're not using the word terrorist. Ross says, Antifa is not an organization. I would debate that based on what I saw. I saw an organized group of individuals. Ross says, it's, I take that back. Maybe it's not Antifa, but there's an organized group out there, and I saw it for myself.
Lewis Middle School, asking them to search for Kada again, and this time they gave a specific location in a wooded area behind the school. Sources also tell me.
Okay, so for those of you just coming in, now we covered many cases today for our lunch break. But we're covering the case of Kada Scott now. She was a Miss Philadelphia pageant. Her life was snuffed away by a 21-year-old guy. They found her remains in the woods. Now, he is locked up. Someone anonymously called in to the police, I believe it was Friday, and identified where they could potentially find a body behind the school. Like, who is that, right? So it makes you wonder, is there more people involved, or how did this individual know, and why did they choose to remain anonymous?
The man in custody for Kada's alleged kidnapping, 21-year-old Keon King, is expected to be charged with additional crimes this week. A tragic update in the disappearance of 23-year-old Kada Scott. Tonight, law enforcement sources telling Fox 29 that a DNA test of a body found Saturday morning in East Germantown confirms that the remains belong to Kada. Sources say the test showed a 99.9% match to DNA collected from Kada's parents. Tonight, we're also learning more about that anonymous tip that led investigators back to the area behind the former Ada Lewis Middle School Saturday morning, an area previously searched by police. That tipster, according to sources, asked police to please go back, saying they missed her, and gave a specific location in a wooded area behind the vacant school. When officers went back, an officer reportedly stepped on newly disturbed dirt, where they eventually found a body in a shallow grave. Kada's debit card and phone.
Now, I want to make a point. On Thursday, I was listening to another channel, and there was a female, actually was on TikTok. She said she was going to go back there herself and start walking around looking for Kada Scott to see if anything, body or what have you. So it could very well have been someone else that did a thorough search and they stumbled upon her remains and did not want to identify themselves. So that would make sense too, based on what I'm hearing. AI McAllister says, however, ICE is Trump's Klan organization. Okay, Mike Webb says Gavin Newsom is the only king. Okay, Serge, New York City says police at times do not need to identify. Okay, thank you, Serge, for breaking it down. Roz says, if you choose a side, you're on the wrong side. Okay, good point. Serge says, the side I choose is common sense. I'm with that too. Eric says, the racist, bigot, homophobe Republican Party has been on the wrong side of history for quite some time. Okay, so we have people from both sides of the aisle.
Case were found in a different area by the school in the previous search. Kada went missing the night of October 4th after arriving for her overnight shift at the Terrace at Chestnut Hill, a senior living facility in East Mount Airy. Her car was left in the parking lot, but personal items like her phone and keys were missing. More than a week later, officials announced charges against 21-year-old Keon King for kidnapping, false imprisonment, and stalking in connection with Kada's disappearance. Investigators.
So they had previously brought charges on him for his behavior, I believe, even toward her, but the females did not show up to court. And so therefore he got off. And look where this whole thing went.
Believed King was the last person to see her the night she disappeared. The district attorney says a previous kidnapping and assault case involving King, which was dismissed when a key witness failed to appear, was refiled. Sources tell Fox 29 King is expected to be charged with additional crimes this week, including stolen car charges and arson. And again, this is very much an active and ongoing investigation, and certainly the outcome that Kada's family, friends, and the community never, ever wanted. Now, the medical examiner's office have not released any details publicly about Kada's case, nor have they ruled her cause and manner of death, which could take some time to determine.
Okay, so still trying to sort this out. We do have a good dialogue going back and forth. I'm not sorry says you always call out and identify. Okay, not sure if ICE does that. I keep hearing quite something different. Okay. Brad Simpson says peaceful protests. Okay. I'm not sorry says evening residents, you make yourself known the law. Okay. Brad Simpson says don't fall for the trap. Peaceful. Okay. Serge is admonishing everyone to look at the law. Serge says different warrants. Okay. So it sounds like Serge has some from the entire picture of your comments. Seem like you may have some legal background, criminal justice perhaps. Serge says no knock warrant, no need to identify. Okay, all right. So we're about to wrap up here. We have just a little bit more to cover in regards to the war that's happening in Russia, between Russia and Ukraine. So let's just take a look and see what Donald Trump has to say about his strategy going forward before we close out for our hot topics at lunch.
Belief, as Mr. Zelensky said yesterday, that the threat of tomahawks and costs, as Secretary Hicks put it, is that bringing him to the table, the fact that it's kind of a carrot and stick?
I don't know what's bringing him to I think he wants to make a deal, that's all. I can't tell you what's bringing him. Sure, that's the threat of that is.
Okay, Tommy says no citizen, no rights. Okay, so that's your argument. Serge says identify on streets, identify if it's a citizen. If police have no knock warrant, they don't need anything. Okay, very good. J-Dub says Trump is the biggest joke. Okay, so there seems to be 50-50 today for and against Trump. Serge says Trump has followed every Supreme Court ruling. That is more than Obama can say. Okay, saying Obama did not follow the rules, folks. He didn't do it.
It's good, but the threat of that is always there. Tomahawks are a big deal. But one thing I have to say, we want tomahawks also. We don't want to be giving away things that we need to protect our country.
What if President
Where are you
Putin
from?
From Ukraine. You actually had a
Okay,
conversation
good.
with me
Good,
in
yeah.
The Hague. What if President Putin doesn't agree to peace in Hungary? What do you do then? Do you have
Well, let's
steps
see what
planned for
happens.
that?
I mean, you know.
What do you guys think in regards to Putin and the last meeting he had with Trump? Do you think he took Trump serious? Did you feel like Trump was a strong leader? Did you feel like he was basically trying to appease Putin? Tell us what you think. Do you think this next meeting is going to be beneficial? What do you guys think? And thank you guys for all the expressions today at lunch. We've had so many comments, so much. It's amazing, man. Some of you guys are very versed when it comes to the law, too, it appears. That's great. Serge says, yes, police badges. 50-50 is exactly where they want us divided. Putin does not trust the U.S., okay? Does the U.S. trust Putin? I don't think so. Tony says, because they're stupid, okay? Talking to Tiffany. AI, okay? McAllister says he played Trump as usual. That's what a lot of people were expecting. We were covering that when it happened. Shout out to you, JDP. Thank you for getting the likes up. Yes, guys, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Trevor says Putin cucked Trump hard. Oh, my. Did he fall in love? Patrick says, open the government, please. That's a subject we did not cover today, but we will cover it tomorrow for lunch. I definitely will do that. Beverly says, absolutely. Okay. All right. Kolos says, Trump trusts Putin, his master. Okay, so he works for Putin, folks. How much does he get for that? Trevor says the con man got cucked. Oh, my. Tony says, show me a Democrat, I'll show you an atheist. Okay. All right. Good point. Perhaps, but I do know a lot of Democrats that are Christians and so forth. Margaret says Putin keeps his moves under his sleeve. Okay. All right. Serge says no kings, no big deal. Trump won the election. He definitely did. Now, when it comes to the midterm elections, I don't know. He may take on water because of certain things that happened. Now, I'm shocked. This is the first show where I haven't seen the name Epstein, because usually by now people say, where are the Epstein files? In fact, during the march on Saturday in New York City for the No Kings, I saw more signs about Epstein than I probably saw about Trump. Everybody wants the Epstein files. They call Trump a pig and a con man, but Epstein. AN says Elon Musk admitted the election was rigged, though. I kind of feel that way, but I'm not a conspiracy type of guy. I like to see some facts. Oh, we got it. Ross says Epstein. AN says Epstein files. Okay, the Epstein files are coming in. Maybe one of you guys can tell us what the Epstein files are. The Abby of everyone says, good point. Epstein files now. Abby, you normally say Epstein files at least one time in the show. What happened today? Well, you've been commenting about all these other matters that we're going through. Brad says taxation without representation, Congress. Okay, Trevor Soul says, show me a MAGA and I'll show you a hateful bigot who has been led far from the teachings of Christ. Oh, my. Cool says, swear. Okay. Ross says both sides involved, both sides are the problem. That's why Epstein won't come out. Okay, where is Epstein at? Is Epstein really dead? That's a conspiracy theory. You know, at this seat that I sit in, I see them all. I see all the conspiracies. Many people feel like Epstein is still out there. Somewhere. That'll probably be until Judgment Day.
But I think he will. I think that President Putin wants to end the war, or I wouldn't be talking this way. I think he wants to end the war. I spoke to him yesterday for 2.5 hours. We went through a lot of details. He wants to get it ended. I think that President Zelensky wants to get it ended. Now we have to get it done.
A few weeks ago in New York, when you two met, you said that you think Ukraine could.
Hey, listen, whether you like Donald Trump or not, the guy keeps going. He's like the Energizer battery, right? He's in different countries. You can find him at night. He's tweeting. You know, he's all over the place. I mean, you have to give him some type of credit for that, whether you like him or not, because they said that Joe Biden used the auto pen, folks. Is that a myth or is it true? Tell us what you think. Is there an auto pen?
Ultimately take back all the territory that it's lost so far. Do you still think that's the case, or do you think there'll have to be some sort of
You
swap
never
of
know.
territories?
Look, you know, war is very interesting. You never know, do you? You just never know. With war and peace, but you never know. Well, I think that he should have won the war in a week. I do think. And if we didn't give the anti-tank missiles, as you know, the javelins they call them.
Okay, DeBose says if Obama's on Epstein list, should he be jailed too? Okay, just as much as Donald Trump, I believe. Raleigh says you sound real stupid here. Foot warmer. Okay, J-Dub says no credit from this direction. Okay. Trevor says autopsy a brown suit. Okay, Anthony says release the grinder list MAGA Mike. I'm not sure what that specifically means, but it sounds like a good one. Come on, tell us all about it. Hit the link. I'm gonna drop the link one last time. We're about to close out the show. It's been a great show. We've had over 500 people the entire show. Last night we had 122,000 people. Can you imagine that? And the comment section was going so crazy. It's hard for me to keep up because I have to slow it down. I have to get used to that. So anyway, Deborah says, no way Obama is on the list. Okay, he couldn't have been on the list. Okay, JDP says, did you see the article they wrote about Trump making an AI video? Yes, dropping. Yeah, we covered that video. That was the first thing I covered on this show. In fact, I'll play that for you guys for just to show it to you for those who may have arrived later. So we'll get to that after I cover this particular video.
They got stuck in the mud. They would have been in Kiev very quickly. They were heading to Kiev. So, you know, in war, you have a lot of luck too. You know, weather has won war, and the cold and the heat and all things.
Paul says, where's Big Mike when Obama needs him? Okay, AN says, what a tragedy of a video. So embarrassing. We're about to cover this, so don't leave, guys. We're going to cover that video. Everybody's talking about the infamous video. Slow Low says Trump 2028 and beyond. They want Trump to be here forever. Okay, Serge says, man, it's moving fast. Serge says Epstein was the one who started the Clinton Foundation. Wow. Okay, Paul says, thanks for celebrating the king. Okay, all right. All right, AN says no kings at all, folks. All right, so that wraps it up for our original show, but I'm going to go back and show you guys the video of Donald Trump in New York City. Let's see if I can get that video back up here. And of course, we're going to have to probably hear a commercial, but we'll get to it. Oh, here we go. We're okay. We got it. Okay, so this video, just to give you guys some context of what happened, over the weekend, there was a No Kings event, 7 million people strong, the biggest event for the No Kings. I covered New York City because I'm a New Yorker. I love it. I love New York, right? I travel so much, but New York is definitely my favorite place, right? Except Italy. I just came back from Italy. Oh, my goodness. I'm going to Greece next. Well, next I'm going to Costa Rica in a couple of weeks. Then I go to Greece. But Italy was better to me than Dubai. I'd always said Dubai was the best place. But at any rate, I did notice at this No Kings event, it was so many people there. Did not seem that these people were all a part of the greater movement, the No Kings movement. And while I was there, they gave me a different card saying that there's another event already planned in November the 6th, the 8th. November the 8th, there's another event in DC, right? So this is very organized, right? But most of these people that I saw were walking in from the crowd. They were New Yorkers. I would stop and talk to a few. But for the most part, remember, I stood on a stone elevator so I could cover it for you guys. And in fact, the lady fell off the stone. Just to give you guys a little side story on our way out. I'm standing on the stone. The stone is about 4 feet tall, you know. there's a lady standing. This guy tries to climb up on it. He's struggling. He could barely walk, right? Older gentleman, I'd say he's about 68 from what I imagine. He gets on the stone and he knocks her right off just like a bowling pin, and she falls head first to the ground. He falls to the ground. He stops a bit with a sign, but he just walks off. He didn't want to identify himself because, you know, I guess he didn't want to be sued. But yeah, that was an experience that happened. Some of you, I think Bordeaux heard it when I was filming. She could hear what was happening in the background. She reached out to me to ask about that. So that happened. That was some of the excitement of the day, you know. I'll tell you guys another quick story since we still have a lot of people here. I covered Sean Diddy Combs' trial for 8 weeks, right? 9 weeks if you want to include the jury selection. On the last day of the trial, a gentleman came up. We had at least two floors. I was mainly in the main courtroom on floor 26 most of the time. But on floor 24, they had the overflow. Some guy came up at the last moment. This is after Diddy's verdict was read and the family's about to come out. And I'm standing in front of him. He has a seizure or maybe some attack. Who knows? He falls head first into my back. So I'm like, I went there 9 weeks without incident. The very last moment, somebody who wasn't supposed to be on the floor hit me in the back with the head. It's like he went out cold. Diddy's attorney, Mark Agnifilo, had to reach down and cradle his head because when he was having this seizure or whatever it was, his head was just banging up against the floor, the hard floor. So that gives you a little background that when we cover these events, and like I told you, when I covered the first No Kings event in June, I saw people that were getting stabbed because there was a big fight. A guy was out there stabbing people. I think Jacqueline, who you guys see me interact with her at the courthouse a lot, she was there. She saw it too. So it's a lot going on out here when you're covering stories. It's not as easy as just being in the studio. We have to put boots on the ground. So anyway, I'm going to show you guys the video. I know some of you have to get back to work, but if you could do this, like the videos if you could, that would be a kind thing. That helps to promote the channel. Share and subscribe if you want to, right? We do this for lunch each day. We also have other shows every Sunday night at 8 o'clock. I have the criminal defense attorney on. We had a great show last night. 122,000 people came through. It was a beautiful thing. I have Candace Kelly coming back on. She teaches law in New Jersey, right? She teaches law. She's coming back on. We're going to have a regular show. She'll be on every week. We have a body language expert. We're having her back on. I even have a nurse coming on. I have a doctor coming. I have a judge coming so that we can cover cases from every angle. And we do this live, folks. Yes, we do. So let's look at the video of Donald Trump's response, right? This is the video everyone wants to see. This is his response to the No Kings event that I attended.
Posted an AI-generated video of Trump over the weekend, posted an AI-generated video of him getting in a Navy jet and dropping presumably tons of sewage on hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of his fellow Americans protesting his presidency during the weekend's No Kings rally. I always find it curious when politicians, especially presidential candidates or presidents, seem to express disdain for millions of their fellow Americans. Hillary Clinton got attacked in 2016 for saying that half of Trump's supporters fit in a basket of deplorables. Joe Biden, the incumbent president at the time, got hot water for saying the only garbage he saw was Trump supporters, after a comedian at the Trump rally referred to Puerto Rico as a floating isle of garbage. But here we have attacking, or trolling, as the White House sees it, millions of Americans as a strategy, not as a gaffe, as with Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, but as a strategy Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, described Democrats this way.
The Democrat Party's main constituency are made up of Hamas terrorists, illegal aliens, and violent criminals.
And over the weekend, we all...
Okay, the Abbey for Every Man says it's embarrassing and incredibly unprofessional for the president to post such a video. Okay, AN says it's very disturbing. Okay, AN says because it's AI. Okay, AAP says Fiesta AI mocks what real humans would do. And since they are such a gross people, I think that's why they kept their mouths open. Oh, my goodness. What is going on? Good catch. Great observation. Now I want to give you guys an added little tidbit. About 2 weeks ago, I went down and I walked from Grand Central and I showed you guys Epstein's mansion. I just gave you a tour. I had to walk 30 blocks to get there. I wanted you guys to see New York City. A lot of people tuned in for that. But in going there, about 5 blocks previous or prior to Epstein's mansion is Trump Towers. And as you know, the president and his family pretty much still are in New York. At least his family is there a lot. Based on what I could determine, you could possibly see this big march probably right from the president's mansion or wherever he is because of the way the towers are situated or what side of the building. I'm pretty sure they have the whole floor. So imagine you have all these people protesting and marching in your front yard, in your backyard. Your children have to see it. I knew the president was going to respond. Actually, when I was recording it for you guys live from the event, I told you the president's not too happy about what's going on. He's going to respond. And you know what he did? He dropped the crap on him, right? That's what he would like to do, folks. Isn't that amazing? That's the president of the United States. He's free to his expression. But when it comes to our expression, we may not have it long, folks.
We also saw Republican luminaries such as Vice President J.D. Vance and others go on Blue Sky, which is a progressive, liberal Twitter social media experiment. And
all right, so you guys recognize who the lady is and the man that are bowing down to the king? Okay, the first person to answer who the man is will get $30 through a Cash App. So let me pull up the, maybe the moderators can help me identify who's going to give us the right answer first. Who is that kneeling before the king in the video? Who is it, folks? Who gets the $30 today? Come on, somebody. Actually, oh, Kane. So Kane, what you'll need to do is get the email, send me your Cash App. I'll get that to you right away. Kane wanted. It's Chuck Schumer. Harvest was second place. You'll get 20. So Harvest, you're second place. All right. Kane, you're number 1. Harvest, you're number 2. Just find the It's Watching the World 777 at gmail.com. It's that simple. And if you send that to me, you'll get your money prize. All right. Thank you so much. Let's end out with the video.
And purposely poke the bears there, posting AI videos of President Trump putting on a crown and Democratic leaders bowing before him. So maybe to some people, it's just trolling and have some fun and lighten up. And to others, it might be more insulting. But one thing it clearly is, empirically, is the president of the United States and the White House dividing the country, and whether it's joking or not, attacking millions of their fellow Americans for having views different from theirs. Remember, this is not an AI video of Trump dropping sewage on violent Antifa riots or undocumented criminal gang members. It's dropping sewage on people peacefully exercising the right of protest and assembly.
Okay, so yeah, that's what the president wants to do. He says, drop it on them, folks. That would have been terrible. I was out there. I would have been right in the middle of it. If it was something that was real, but it was AI. Scott says, Trump for king for life. Okay, very good. So thank you guys for really tuning in today. We had so many people tune in, a lot of people last night. It's beautiful. Thank you for all the likes, the shares, and Also for the subscriptions. I also appreciate our moderators who work so great to make sure that when people come in that are being too disrespectful, then they can address the matter. I'm not too sensitive, so it is what it is. But when it comes to other people in the chat, we want everyone to feel welcome. Doesn't matter what box or what category you want to put yourself in. If you want to identify as a blue, maybe you want to be identifying as a red, or maybe you want to be a mushroom. Whatever you want to identify with is fine. Not a big deal here. But we just say, please be respectful of other people's feelings, all right? It's very important that we do so. I'm sorry. So that was the attorney, Calvin. Calvin, you're calling me now. I'm live, but call me back again if it's something about the show, or if you want to come back on, and I'll answer and bring you up. I'm sorry about that. So that's the criminal defense attorney, Calvin, that was just calling me. So maybe it's something to do with the show. He wants to come up. If he calls again, I'll briefly pause and bring him up as well. But anyway, what I was saying is, whatever you want to identify as, just don't push it or bring hate to other people, right? What I often tell people is, two of my neighbors are sharpshooters, and they're probably 70, 80 years old. They make everybody understand I used to be a sharpshooter in the Army. They also happen to be Republicans, okay? Now, here's the thing. I often tell people, you can have your differences amongst each other, but if another country, let's say China, came for war, I'm not going to be asking my neighbor, right? Oh, what's your party? What are you doing? You know, because trouble is on the horizon. A lot of people are concerned about this unidentified flying whatever that's headed in the direction of the earth, right? At that point, when there's an outside of the earth problem, which could be nothing, right? Could be something, I don't know. But at that point now, everybody on earth is trying to band together to solve an exterior problem, right? So we get caught up in these little fights and these spats. We can't come to an agreement because we grow up with these ideologies about who's the enemy. So at any rate, guys, thank you for trying to get along. This channel, we have both sides of the aisle. It's going to stay that way. We're going to grow that way. But please just be respectful to others. And as I started this show, please, in the name of Kada Scott, for the men or whoever feels like they're the strongest individual, stronger, stop putting your hand on women and children. In fact, keep your hands to yourself. Why would you play this God and feel like you can take the life of someone else? I know this young girl was terrified, and to be stalked for a long period of time and the person take your life, to me, is the ultimate injustice. And something needs to happen, because this is happening. I'm covering these cases. There's so many, sorry. And there's so many of these individuals taking, especially young girls' lives. It's unbelievable to me, you know, and also children too. And then I sat through the case with Diddy, and all I heard was Cassie take the stand with her head down, tell her story. They played a video. You know what happened on the video. Then you see Mia come in. She tells her story. She talks about what happened. There's also various assaults. Then you have Jane Doe come in. She says doors are being knocked down, and she's a weaker vessel as a woman, right? Now, we know that all women do not adhere to that, because some women identify as a man. Okay, I'm not talking about that, but I would say if you are a man, you really need to think about it, because even though, like, many of us grew up and we saw our uncles, maybe even your father beaten, right? The woman, the wife, whatever, the younger sister. Sometimes the person for the domestic violence is siblings in a house growing up. All of that needs to stop, because it has no happy ending, right? No happy ending at all. All right, so let's get to a few comments and then I'm going to sign out. Sorry, we went over today 30 minutes. I try to keep this under an hour, but today there was just so much to cover coming back from the weekend. So sorry about that. Going forward, I'll try to keep the show under an hour so people who have to go back to work, we lost a lot of people around 1, they're going to feel like they missed out on something. I don't like that. All right. Gold Digger says, yes, Mel, no woman, no children. Yes, that's our motto over here. You know, we catch you beating on kids or women around here. Well, we won't say anything further, but we're not going to tolerate it. Brad Simpson says, peaceful. Yes, indeed. Jacob says, Trump 2028. Okay. AN says, it's baloney. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's right. Actually, when I went to Italy, they actually have a city called Bologna too. So, and when you go there, you can get all the bologna you want. I didn't know that until I went to Italy myself. I was actually on the bus and I'm like, the next city is Bologna. And we were actually heading there. So that was pretty cool. All right. AN says, children shouldn't talk politics, honey. Okay. So we have some people going back and forth. Some random guy speaks, says, Diddy. Okay. Tom says, I like this guy. Tom, I like you too. AAP says, the only thing Palestine wants is free. Man up and fight your own wars. Okay. All right. JDP says, like, share, and subscribe, and turn on your notifications and be notified for upcoming shows. All right. So, in conclusion, I just want to say this is independent media, right? And we're covering news. Sometimes we swing with CNN. The Fox people get upset. When I cover Fox, which I've showed both this show, the CNN people get upset. You know, it's a whole tug of war with right, left, or blue, red. You know, we get this whole philosophy. That's what it means to be brainwashed. You get an idea and you swallow it whole. You just want to die for something that someone put into your mind. So once they give you this idea that you're a MAGA or you're a liberal, then you're ready to die for it, not even understanding that you're probably neither one. That's the real, you know, we have these different philosophies that we develop and we can't even shake it. It's almost like religion. When you grew up in a religion, even if you lead a religion could still be in you. And that's the problem with the deal that Donald Trump is making, because even though Donald Trump is coming to make a good deal in good faith, we get it, right? There was so much pushback from all these countries. But the thing that Donald Trump don't understand, because he's not a true religionite, I call him, right? Growing up in religion, perhaps, right? When people believe in their Bible, and their Bible say, listen, this is a prophecy. One day you're going to live forever. People start looking for that, right? I grew up in a religion that said, oh, you're going to live forever in paradise. So you look for that as long as you are in that religion, because religion is the lens, right? It's the lens, right? Through which people see their God. It is, right? If a guy put on the Christian lens, he's going to say, oh, Jesus died for me. If he put on the Islam lens, he's going to see things totally different. He's not going to eat pork, no matter what you do. And if you give him pork, he might want to kill you over it. That's just the facts of the matter, right? So the main point that I'm just trying to help people understand is that people have religious values and beliefs that are tied to prophecy. And guess what? All of those prophecies that these men have, they're going to get some land. And guess what? Some land in the Middle East. They're not going to go and get new land. You could give them half of the United States. It's not going to work, because the Bible said they have to have the promised land. They have to have Jerusalem. You know, they have to have these prophecies work in place. So you could try to make a peace deal all day, but you can't defy the God in a man's mind. And that's the issue that we have. And then you also have the issue with Israel, ancient Israel in the Bible, Hebrew texts, right? Christians came along in the Greek scriptures. That's why I went to Rome as a part of my Bible scholarship program, because in Rome, you start to understand how Christianity developed there, right? Most people don't understand that, right? But that's why Christianity is associated with Matthew to Revelation. And I don't want to start preaching. This is a news show, so I'm going to leave it at that. But anyway, I was making the point that these individuals that Trump is trying to bring peace together with, they can't see beyond the Bible or the Quran or whatever religious book that they prescribe to. It's going to be hard to get them to see that these individuals across the aisle are not the enemy that they should kill. So at any rate, thank you guys for getting along and for all of us just trying to have a meeting of the minds. We have independent media. I'm always willing to share something that you have. You can reach out to me if you have a local story, you want to get more eyes on it, feel free to reach out. But listen, it's beautiful to have everyone here. We're not looking at you if you're red, if you're blue, if you identify as a car, then peaceful driving, all right? If you identify as a boat, peaceful sailing to you. I don't care, all right? But let's keep getting along. Let's keep looking at what happened or what will happen in America, and hopefully we can make a difference someday, you know, and really trying to be peaceful with our neighbors. Thank you, and thank you to my moderators. You guys have a great day, and I'll be back tomorrow at noon.
Different voices, but the same song. Building a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the thing remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. The colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.